She was only 13, barefoot, homeless, and starving. Yet she ran to the gates of a billionaire doctor's hospital, screaming for help. The guards tried to throw her out, until the doctor himself appeared. What happened next will break your heart, and heal it at the same time. Family, if this story is already pulling at your heart, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. Your support helps us keep bringing powerful stories like this to life. And don't forget to share this video. Someone out there needs to hear it. The sun had barely risen over the dusty streets of Makori town when Aisha's small hands tightened around the frail fingers of her mother, Miriam. They had slept on a torn mat under the veranda of an abandoned shop, their belongings no more than a rusty tin trunk and a bundle of worn-out clothes. For weeks, they had wandered from one corner of the bustling town to another, searching for mercy, searching for a place to belong. Miriam's belly was heavy with child, her face pale, her breath shallow. Sweat drenched her forehead even in the cool of dawn. Each time she tried to sit up, a groan escaped her lips, muffled quickly by her daughter's hand, as though pain itself could be hidden from the world. "Ma, hold on," Aisha whispered, forcing a brave smile though her own stomach twisted with hunger. "I will find help today. I promise." At just 13, Aisha's eyes carried the weight of storms older than her years. She had seen enough hunger, rejection, and loss to crush even the strongest spirit. Yet, inside her burned a stubborn flame, the love for her mother, the only family she had left. They had once lived in a small compound at the edge of the village, where Miriam sold akara by the roadside and Aisha carried water for neighbors. Life was hard but simple, until Miriam fell in love with a man who promised her a new beginning. He was charming, a trader who claimed he wanted to marry her and take care of them. But when Miriam became pregnant, the man vanished, leaving behind shame, whispers, and an empty hut. The village turned cold. Old friends refused to greet them. Even the women who once bought Miriam's akara crossed to the other side of the road. One by one, debts piled, food ran out, and when Miriam collapsed one morning, the landlord threw them out. That was how mother and daughter found themselves on the streets of Makori. Now, Miriam's time was running out. Her breaths came in short, sharp bursts, and Aisha knew what she feared most, that both her mother and the unborn child would die, right there on the pavement, with no one to remember their names. Rumors had reached her ears about a man who lived in the city's tallest mansion. A man of wealth beyond imagination, yet with a heart rumored to be as unreachable as the moon. They said he was a doctor, a surgeon trained in foreign lands, now back in Africa, running a hospital that only the rich could afford. People called him Dr. Kamau, the billionaire doctor. Aisha had seen him once, from afar, stepping out of a black car with tinted windows, dressed in a suit so fine it shimmered. The crowd parted for him as though the earth itself recognized his footsteps. She had heard mothers whisper that he had saved lives others had given up on. But she also heard the market women hiss that his hospital turned away the poor, no matter how desperate. Still, to Aisha, he was the only hope left. That morning, she wiped her mother's face with the edge of her torn dress, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Don't give up. I will find him." Then, barefoot and trembling, she set out toward the gates of the mighty hospital, her heart pounding with fear and determination. The walk to the hospital felt endless. The streets of Makori were already alive, hawkers shouting the price of roasted maize, buses honking as they fought for passengers, schoolchildren in neat uniforms skipping past. Aisha's bare feet pressed against the hot gravel, but she ignored the stares of those who paused to look at the skinny girl with a determined stride. When she reached the hospital gates, her heart nearly stopped. The compound itself was like another world. White walls gleamed under the sun, flowers lined the driveway, and guards in crisp uniforms stood at attention. Cars she had only seen in magazines rolled in and out, their shiny doors reflecting the light like mirrors. Aisha approached timidly, clutching the hem of her dress. "Excuse me, sir," she whispered to the first guard, a tall man with a hard face. "Please, I need to see the doctor." My mother is dying. She is pregnant, and she—" "Move away, girl," the guard snapped, not even letting her finish. "This hospital is not for beggars. Go to the government clinic across town." Tears stung her eyes, but she stood her ground. "Please, I am begging you. My mother cannot walk. She will die before we reach there." The guard laughed, a short bitter sound. "Even if you reach here, can you pay? The consultation alone is more than you will see in your life. Don't waste our time." Aisha's lips trembled. She thought of running back, but then she saw the black car rolling slowly toward the gates. The car she remembered. Her heart leaped. Without thinking, she broke past the guard and ran straight into the driveway, her voice breaking into the air. "Doctor! Doctor, please help my mother. She is dying." The car came to a halt. The guards rushed after her, grabbing her by the arms, shaking her as though she was a criminal. "Are you mad, girl? Do you know who this is? Move back." But before they could drag her away, the car window slid down. A man's face appeared, sharp, handsome, serious, with eyes that carried both authority and fatigue. "Dr. Kamau." "What is this noise?" his deep voice asked. The guards bowed slightly, their tone suddenly soft. "Sir, just a street child. Ignore her. We will take her away immediately." But Aisha twisted in their grip and cried out louder, her voice raw with desperation. "Doctor, please. My mother is dying. She is pregnant and cannot breathe. We have no money, but I beg you, save her. If you have any heart at all, please save her." For a moment, silence fell. People in the compound stopped to stare. Nurses, patients, visitors. Some murmured, others shook their heads. Dr. Kamau's eyes fixed on her, unreadable. Then, with a wave of his hand, he said calmly, "Bring her here." The guards hesitated. "But, sir—" "I said bring her here," he repeated firmly. They released her at once, and Aisha stumbled forward, falling on her knees in front of the car. Her small hands pressed against the polished shoes of the doctor. "Please, sir, please," she sobbed. "My mother is everything I have. Don't let her die. I will do anything. I will clean your house, sweep the hospital floor, carry water. Just save her, I beg you." Dr. Kamau studied her for a long time, his jaw tightening slightly. Something flickered in his eyes, but he gave no hint of emotion. Finally, he spoke. "Where is your mother?" "In the old market street, under the abandoned shop veranda," Aisha answered quickly, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. Dr. Kamau glanced at his driver. "Take the ambulance. Bring her in immediately. And make sure she is admitted to the emergency ward." The words fell on Aisha like rain in the desert. Relief crashed over her, and for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to hope. As the ambulance pulled out of the compound, racing toward the market street, Aisha remained kneeling on the ground, her chest rising and falling as though she had been running. She looked up at Dr. Kamau, who had already stepped out of the car, his coat swinging behind him as he walked into the hospital. He didn't look back. But to Aisha, he had already become a savior. The ambulance tore through the crowded streets, its siren wailing. Aisha clung to the metal frame inside, her eyes locked on her mother lying on the stretcher. Miriam's face was pale, her lips trembling as she whispered her daughter's name. "Aisha, are we going to the clinic?" "No, Ma," Aisha said quickly, brushing damp hair from her mother's forehead. "We are going to the big hospital. The doctor himself sent for you. You will be fine. Just hold on a little longer." Her mother's eyes flickered with disbelief. The hospital? That place was only for the wealthy, the untouchable. Could it be true? Before she could speak again, another contraction tore through her body, and she cried out, clutching her belly. By the time they arrived, nurses were waiting with a wheelchair. They moved quickly, lifting Miriam out of the ambulance and wheeling her into the gleaming white halls of the hospital. Aisha ran beside them, her small legs struggling to keep up. The hospital was like a palace, air-cool with humming machines, walls spotless, nurses in crisp uniforms moving with practiced speed. Aisha felt out of place in her torn dress, but she didn't care. All that mattered was her mother. They pushed Miriam into the emergency ward, where a young doctor and 2 nurses began examining her. Aisha stood at the door, watching with wide eyes as strange machines beeped and tubes were attached. "She is severely dehydrated," one nurse muttered. "Blood pressure dangerously low." "She is in premature labor," the doctor added, frowning as he checked her stomach. "If we don't act fast, we might lose both mother and child." The words struck Aisha like thunder. She clutched the doorframe to steady herself. "Please don't let her die," she whispered. The nurse glanced at her sympathetically, then returned to work. Moments later, Dr. Kamau entered the ward, his presence commanding immediate silence. He scanned the monitors, listened to the doctor's report, and then said, "Prepare the operating theater. We have no time to waste." "But, sir," one nurse hesitated, "her file shows no insurance, no deposit." Dr. Kamau cut her off with a sharp look. "Did I ask about money? Prepare the theater now." The nurse lowered her head. "Yes, sir." Aisha's throat tightened with gratitude. She wanted to run to him, to thank him, but her legs wouldn't move. Instead, she pressed her hands together in silent prayer. Within minutes, Miriam was wheeled away toward surgery. Aisha tried to follow, but a nurse gently stopped her. "You cannot go inside, child. Wait here." She was left standing alone in the hallway, her heart pounding, every minute dragging like an eternity. She sank into a plastic chair, hugging her knees to her chest. Around her, wealthy families moved in and out, dressed in fine clothes, speaking in low voices. Some looked at her with curiosity, others with disdain. She didn't care. She thought of the times she and her mother had gone hungry together, of the nights they had shared one piece of bread between them, of the mornings when Miriam had whispered courage into her ear even while suffering in silence. Now, everything rested in the hands of the man they called the billionaire doctor. The double doors of the operating theater closed, and Aisha's world narrowed to one desperate prayer. "God, please, don't take my mother away from me. Not now. Not like this." The waiting felt like a lifetime. Every tick of the clock was a hammer on Aisha's chest. She sat on the hard hospital chair, her hands folded tightly as if the pressure alone could keep her mother alive. Each time the double doors opened, her heart jumped, but it was only nurses passing by, pushing trolleys or carrying files. Finally, after what felt like hours, the doors swung open and Dr. Kamau stepped out. His gloves had been removed, and fatigue showed in his eyes, but his face carried a calm authority. Aisha sprang to her feet, her voice trembling. "Doctor, my mother, is she alive?" For a moment, he didn't answer. Then, slowly, he nodded. "She is stable now," he said firmly. "The delivery was difficult, but both mother and child survived. They are weak, but alive." Aisha's knees gave way beneath her. She sank to the floor, her tears spilling freely, not of sorrow but of overwhelming relief. Her small hands pressed against the tiles as she whispered, "Thank you, God. Thank you." Dr. Kamau bent slightly, his voice softer now. "Get up, child. Your mother needs you strong." Aisha stood shakily, her eyes full of gratitude. "Doctor, I have no words. I thought I had lost her forever." He studied her silently for a moment, then asked, "What is your name?" "Aisha," she replied. "And my mother is Miriam." He nodded slowly, as though committing the names to memory. "Come. I will let you see her." He led her into a recovery ward, where Miriam lay on a bed, pale but breathing steadily. Beside her, wrapped in a small blanket, was a newborn baby, its tiny chest rising and falling. Aisha rushed forward, falling to her knees beside the bed. "Ma!" she whispered, clutching her mother's hand. Miriam's eyes fluttered open, and a weak smile spread across her face. "Aisha, my brave girl, I am still here." A sob broke from Aisha's throat as she buried her face in her mother's arm. "I begged him, Ma. I begged him, and he saved you. Both of you." Miriam's gaze shifted to the small bundle beside her. "Your brother," she whispered. "He came too soon, but he is strong. I will call him Baraka, blessing, because he is a blessing we did not expect to see." Aisha reached out, gently touching the baby's soft cheek. For the first time in years, hope blossomed in her heart. Dr. Kamau stood quietly by the door, watching the scene unfold. Something stirred in him, something he had long buried beneath layers of pride and detachment. He had built walls around himself, telling the world that his hospital was only for those who could afford it, but this child's desperate courage had broken through. As he turned to leave, Aisha ran after him. "Doctor!" she called, her small feet pattering on the tiles. He paused, looking down at her. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "We have nothing. No money, no house. But if there is ever a way I can repay you, I will. I promise." For the first time that day, a faint smile touched his lips. "You already did, Aisha. You reminded me why I became a doctor in the first place." Her eyes widened, but before she could speak again, he walked away, his coat swaying gently behind him. That night, as the hospital lights glowed softly and Miriam slept peacefully with her newborn by her side, Aisha sat awake, her hand resting protectively on her brother's blanket. Life was still uncertain. They were still poor, still homeless. But for the first time, they had hope. She whispered to the sleeping baby, "We will survive, Baraka. Ma and I will raise you. One day, you will know how close we came to losing everything, and how a stranger chose to save us. And I will never forget." The stars outside shone faintly over Makori, and Aisha felt as though one of them now belonged to her family, a light that could not be taken away. And so, from the ashes of despair, a new chapter began. If this story touched your heart, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs hope today. And if you want more powerful African stories like this, hit that subscribe button and join our storytelling family. Until next time, remember, compassion can change lives.